The USA running on 3 of 4 cylinders. The USA is not nearly as prosperous as it could be because they're using economic principles set forth by pagan societies. Now, we're not talking religion or morality here, or even ethics. It boils down to plain stupidity. Mankind, without God's help, is just not smart enough to deal with proper economic principles and applications. Those of the monotheistic religions are also oblivious, as Jesus warned that human tradition brings to naught the counsel of God. So while they may fully intend to worship God in their ceremonialism, the true worshiper worships God in spirit and in truth. I mean, it's simple. If you're honest, then you realize that God's right and you're wrong, and you change. There is no ceremony practiced by man that is not subject to change. True economics runs on a principle of universal prosperity. If economic engines operate in parallel, the wealth and well-being mounts steadily in increments of geometric progression. If the system is fraught with dampeners, such as what the Bible describes as usury or charging interest, the economy slumps into steady decline and can only be augmented by use of warfare and armament production or such like to recover a modicum of wealth for a minority that doesn't know how to use it correctly. This accounts for most of the conflicts of the late 19th and the entire 20th centuries. For man, he only sees but death and fashions his hot steel glowing. The United States government should be concerned primarily with generating taxpayers and making sure they get to the higher tax brackets. This involves the use of agencies such as the Internal Revenue Service to help the adult citizens become self-employed and then pay taxes in an easy way, in an affordable manner. Agencies such as the Department of Weights and Balances should be able to enforce against price gouging with fines and imprisonment. The criterion is something like the average citizen's ability to afford to live with certain price levels. Changing levels of the prime rate was never a way to control inflation. In reality, it turned out that the raising of the rate was a way to steal land from the family farmer, and the lowering of rates. Wow, I'm having trouble pronouncing lowering. The lowering. I guess you gotta use that R as a consonant. Lowering. The lowering of rates was a way to deny housing to emerging competitors on an open market. Wow, I pronounced opid. Well, yeah, I guess that is like an archaic word. Open is more like what we use now. So, yeah, it's basically dishonesty, really. And this is a problem that people have. They kind of justify these things because they don't know what else to do. So the simple thing is to become criminally minded and just go ahead and steal something and just sort of gloss it over, you see. Changing levels of the prime rate was never a way to control inflation. What they did was that they stole prime farmland from the family farmers in Iowa back in the 80s, back in 1984. And, they were able to buy that Iowa farmland for as much as 10 cents on the dollar. Because they raised the level of the prime rate, went up into double digits. And the farmer had already been encouraged to get equipment, better equipment, so that they could be patriotic and produce food. And they went along with that. And they ended up losing their farm because they were already in debt for the equipment and other things. So, we had butter mountains. They actually, in order to control prices, threw wheat into the ocean and things like that. So you see, what happens is these guys don't know what they're doing. Neither does any human being. God is the only one who understands real economics. So, in order to know what to do, you have to get it from God. And you can't do that by just some kind of religious ritualism. You have to get the real thing. If it's not the real thing, you're not going to get it. The agencies, such as the Department of Weights and Balances, should be able to enforce against price gougings with fines and imprisonment. The criterion is something like the average citizen's ability to afford to live with certain price levels. It isn't based on what the charging as much as the market will bear. It is really based on what people can afford. See, if people are not being paid a living wage, then the prices have to be enforced downward so that the people can afford their wages that they get can become a living wage. Changing levels of the prime rate was never a way to control inflation. In reality, it turned out to be that the raising of the rate was a way to steal land from the family farmer. And the lowering of rates was a way to deny housing to emerging competitors in an open market. The saddest thing is that those who partake in such godlessness actually, even though they seem to be wealthy, are poor compared to the untold wealth they could have enjoyed had they done it the right way. God's way.